Hey everyone, myself Taskir and you are watching WsCube Tech. Guys, in this video, I am going to talk about very recent news from Google, right? So, let's straight away dive into the content. See, there is a very recent news from Google's John Mueller about HTTP status code. There is a question, I have written the questions, and if you see here, I have a question over here which was actually asked by John Mueller in Google Webmaster Hangout. And the question was, wondering if Google checks status codes before anything else, like before rendering content. When the crawler of Google comes to your website or web page, it actually renders your content and then index that content. So, there was a curiosity. People asked John Mueller that, do you believe that Google actually checks HTTP status codes before rendering the actual content or before indexing the actual content? So, if you do not know about the HTTP response codes or HTTP response status or HTTP status codes, whatever you want, you can call them. HTTP response status codes indicate whether a specific HTTP request has been successfully completed or not. Responses are grouped in 5 classes. When someone comes on your website and hits a URL or make a request, there is a response from the server. And those responses are actually designed into codes, or we can say that those responses can be explained into codes, that what that server is telling to the client. So, these are the different responses. First one is informational response. Then the second thing is successful response. So, if you are getting any status code in between like 100 and 199, it will be coming under informational response. And if you are getting some status code like 200 or up to 299, it will come under successful response. Then you have redirects, then you have client errors like 404, right? You know it very well, 404, which means page not found, right? So, if you have this kind of error like client error or informational error or successful error or redirects and server errors, so these all errors are actually denoted by different response codes. So, these are the response codes. So, when the crawler comes to your website or web page, it checks that what kind of response is coming from this particular web page, right? So, after getting the response, the crawler acts. So, these are the various status codes that I have discussed. Now, coming to the main point, which is the basic topic of this video, that wondering if Google checks status code before anything else, like before rendering content. What John Mueller said, Mueller confirmed that it is very correct. Google does check the codes before rendering or indexing content. Especially, Google will check for a 200 status, which means that Google confirms that whether your page is giving a OK response or not. And if it's not giving the OK response, crawler will not move forward, or we can say that it will not start rendering or indexing your web page. So, first of all, it actually specially checks that whether your response code is 200 status or not, right? So, if Google encounters a 400 or 500 or something like 4, it can be anything beyond 4, it can be anything after 5, right? So, these are the notations of the codes. 400 or 500 or a redirect also like 301 or something like that, then it would not proceed with rendering the content for indexing. But by default, Google does not render anything unless it returns a 200 status code. So, before the actual rendering and indexing takes place, or different factors of on page, right, on page comes into play, what crawler actually checks is the status code, which should be 200 for the crawler to indicate that, yeah, you are ready, you can move forward and then render and index the page, right? So, if you believe you are making different fancy 404 pages, right, if you are creating different kind of very attractive 404 pages, then those pages are only for the users, not the crawlers, because once the crawler gets 404 status, it will not come to your 404 page, or it will not render your content or see your content or index your content. There will be nothing like that. So, the crawler will move away from your content, that's it. So, if you are creating a 404 and that is very fancy, that is only for the user's point of view. So, I hope you have enjoyed this video. See you in the next video. Till then, a very good bye.